Hello fellow woodworkers and welcome to this week's edition of the Garage Workshop 10-minute tool review. This week we're going to be looking at Parkside Garage Floor paint. Roll the intro. Okay, so the plan of action is to apply this to a section of the garage floor, but I'm going to apply it exactly as it says to do on the tin. I've done a lot of research onto different products to do garage floors. My floor is just a really basic concrete garage floor. In some places it's smooth, in other places it's got gouges, some places it's very rough. Now, the instructions on this tin are very specific and it doesn't say that you have to prepare it in any particular way. It just says that surfaces have to be clean, dry, free from grease and stable. It does say roughen concrete textures before you use them, but actually the concrete that I'm putting this on is already quite rough. So what I'm going to do is just apply it exactly as it is now, and I'm going to tape off a square underneath my mitre station, which gets the vast majority of the dust. So I'm just going to apply a square, masking tape square, and then pop this on, and let's see what it looks like going on and see what the finish is. Now it does say on here to apply 3 to 4 coats, so we'll try one first and see what it looks like. Okay, so this is the area that I'm going to tape off. I'm just going to tape it off with some masking tape and then just paint a section, probably about 1/2 metre by about 1 metre. And as you can see, hopefully, there are some places here where the concrete is smoother, but there's lots and lots of places where the concrete is a lot rougher, particularly around these parts and also there in front. So what I'm going to do now is tape it off, then I'm going to open the tin, give it a stir, and we can apply. I'm going to use a roller. Not quite sure what's the best head to use, but let's give it a go and see how it looks. Just a little explanation about this. Originally, my first plan was to just do one section, the section that you can see me taping off here. I just wanted to do one section just for this video as a sort of test to see what the paint is like, and I wanted to keep it nice and neat and tidy. That's why I've masked and taped this bit off, and also why you see me use the mini roller. But as I went on and tried to, got further coverage across the garage, I actually stuck to this plan. I dropped the blue tape because it's very expensive and just used standard masking tape. But as I worked my way across, having the mini roller was actually really handy, particularly because there were some sort of hard to reach places, and it also gave me a much better control over how and when I put the paint on. I sometimes think using a bigger paint roller is a bit more cumbersome and actually doesn't give you the flexibility that a mini roller does. So just to explain, that's why I taped off a square and that's why I use the mini roller. Okay, so here you can see the square that I've marked off. It's not brilliantly straight, but it is straight enough. So like I said, I'm not going to treat the surface with anything, because all of this bit, with the exception of a tiny little bit here that's fairly smooth, is still quite rough to feel. I think this is a big enough square to give me a sort of idea what it's going to look like. So I'm going to pop the tin open now. Let's have a look at what it looks like inside. As you will have just seen, I've given it a good old shake, and I'm going to use a foam roller for this. To be honest, I've got no idea whether this is the right roller to use, but it feels better to try this one than it does to try the sort of, the other one, the sort of, I don't know what the other one is, but you know what I mean. So I'll try this. Let's give it an open and see what it looks like on the inside. And fingers crossed it's mixed up enough. Get our first look at the colour, which it is definitely grey. Not sure how much you can see that, but That is definitely a grey in colour. So let's just put a bit in here, just a tiny little bit to start with. I'm never very good at doing this bit. Ooh, that's a lot. It feels, looks and smells exactly like normal paint. So let's get it on the floor, see how it looks. Definitely feels like the foam roller was the way to go. It seems to be covering quite nicely so far, but I can also see why you would need 4 coats. It is quite thin, and obviously it's quite hard to put a grey paint on essentially a grey coloured floor. I'm sure this product, like a lot of Parkside little products, is probably manufactured by a bigger, more well-known, well-established paint company, but I have to say it's going on really nicely, especially this part of the floor, which is really rough. And as with many of you, I'm sure I've got lots of spills, lots of different coloured spillages all over the garage floor. So as you can see in this clip, I wish it was that fast in real life. I just slightly overlapped each of the sort of runs back and forward with the mini roller, and it gave me a lot more control of how the paint was spread across the floor, which is what I was looking for. Okay, so hard to see the finish, I know, but you can see there's a couple of stains. This one here, which is on the side there, you can probably see it. It's partially covered that up, and my bigger red stain that's over here again partially covered that up too. The coverage is actually really good. I mean, I'm not the best decorator in the world, but the coverage is actually really good. I'm really quite pleased with that. That's how much paint I've got left, so fair amount left from the little bit that I put in. But in terms of the coverage, I can see how you get such a huge amount of coverage from this one tin. It does say on the pack that it will cover 15 square meters. Now, it doesn't say if that's 15 square meters covered in more than one coat, but certainly I think from that tin I would probably have enough, probably at least to do half of the garage workshop, if not more. And as I think I said at the beginning, if this works, I'm going to cover more of the garage in it, because it's just nice to have a surface to take things on and off of. And actually, as this paint is drying, you can see that stain has become just as visible. I think it's an oil stain as it was before. But some of the other smaller stains, like these two that were here, you can't really see them. And again, the big red stain, again, can't really see it. So let's give it a few minutes to dry and add another coat. Okay, so this is the patch. It's had 4 coats, and I'm going to tell you straight away now, I don't think it needs that many. I'm not sure how closely or how well you can see it, but it's taken superbly well, and I really think 3 coats would be enough. So I'm really impressed with how it looks. I've just realised I've inadvertently touched it there and put a little spot in it. But the 2 major stains, the stain that was over here has pretty much gone. The little red stain at the back, you can still just about see it, but it's not bad at all. So what I'm going to do now is we're going to leave it to dry for a couple of days and let's come back and see how it looks. So fellow woodworkers, as you can see, the garage is now painted, completely covered with the paint. It took about 1 1/3 tins to do the entire garage. I'll give you a rough estimate on screen of how big the garage is because I haven't got a clue, but I've done it stage by stage, section by section, moved all the furniture out, had a little bit of a rearrange and got everything done, and every single part of the garage has had 4 coats. The last one is drying, you might be able to see it on the film. So what are my overall impressions of the paint? Well, there are good things and there are bad things, and I think if you're going to buy this paint, you have to be very, very clear on what you want it for. If you want the one product you're going to buy that will give you an impenetrable barrier to everything, that is not this product. It's very good, but it's not going to be everything you want it to be. If you want to do that, you need to go for a different solution, probably, you know, maybe even some sort of matting or rubber matting or some sort of something like that. It's not going to give you that. In terms of the coverage, the paint covers brilliantly. You know, that one tin pretty much would have done half of the 4 coats for the entire garage, and I wasn't exactly putting it on thin, I was really leathering it on. So it covers very well, it goes on incredibly well, and it dries incredibly quickly, which is a really good thing if you're doing a big space like I am. So how I've done it is I've sectioned off 2 bits. I've just masking taped off 2 bits like you saw at the beginning of the video, done one, then I've done the other, and by the time I've done the second one, I've gone back to the first one, it's dry enough to apply a second coat. Then I've tended to leave it 10 minutes after the 2 coats and then come back and do the third and the fourth. What are the things I don't like about it? Well, the number one thing I don't like about it is I don't think it's going to be there forever. So as I said, I've used masking tape, and when I was pulling the masking tape off, I threw it on the ground, not thinking anything more about it, and part of the masking tape stuck to the floor, and it was a piece of the garage that had been painted a couple of days ago, so it should have been well dry. When I pulled up the masking tape, which isn't the strongest tape in the world, it took the paint straight off all the way down to the concrete. Now, it could be that I hadn't really prepared the floor enough, because I haven't done a huge amount. I haven't rubbed all the floor down. There are smooth bits which I've just covered with paint. It could be that, or it could be that that's just the way it's going to be, and it's going to crack in places, and there are going to be times when things are going to rip it off. That's why I've got a 1.5 tin spare, which I have. The other thing is, when I move my big heavy units with the big rubber cast iron, big rubber casters around, even though they're on a part of the garage that had been painted for quite a few days, it did leave a track mark. And when I went to rub them out with a multi-purpose wipe, like an antibacterial wipe, it did take some of the paint off. So those things I've got to be careful of. But for a total outlay of less than £50, I've covered the garage, and I think it looks absolutely fantastic. So I'm well pleased. So for me, this was a really, really good solution for what I wanted it to be. Might not be the same for you, but if you just want a quick covering that looks nice and is going to last, then this is the one for you. If this is your first time at the Garage Workshop, thank you so much for dropping by. Please subscribe and don't forget to like and comment. It means a lot. If you're a regular viewer, thank you for your continued support. Lots of good videos to come over the coming few weeks from the Garage Workshop. Have a fantastic week. See you next week.